to talk a little bit about the differences between the two programs. So the RREO, or our granddaddy recycling program, and I apologize, all of a sudden the sun is right in my face. This is our older funding opportunity, been around since about 2007. It is for the entire state of Colorado. We are appropriated approximately $4.3 million a year. This program runs strictly on the fiscal year, so that's a July 1 through June 30 calendar. And what that means and what makes this grant program a little more unique is that all of the grant dollars must be spent in that first fiscal year of the project, unless there's some kind of special extenuating circumstance. RREO is unique in that it also has about a 50-50 focus on job creation and socioeconomic impact, along with waste diversion. And through RREO, we've already funded over $1 million directly to NextCycle projects. Next slide, please. Our newer recycling grant program is the Forward or Front Range Waste Diversion Program. And this program is limited to the 13 Front Range counties because those counties pay additional tipping fees. This program anticipates, once fully implemented, having around $10 to $15 million a year to allocate to grant projects. This is an enterprise fund or a state-run business, which means that the dollars are continuously appropriated. And unlike our REO, these projects are not confined to that first year or that fiscal year of funding. This program also has a strict emphasis on diversion tonnage and moving the diversion needle. Not that they aren't interested in the other benefits like socioeconomic impact and equity, but that is where their challenges is with tonnage. And to date, we have not yet funded a NextCycle project through the Forward program. However, we would certainly like to. And we do currently have an RFA open. And I think the link is right there for folks. So thank you so much, and I will turn this over to Megan.
Awesome. Thanks, Kendra. So my name is Megan Weeb. I'm a consultant at RRS based out of Boulder. I've worked closely on the NextCycle Colorado program since its start in 2018. So just to give a little bit of background and kind of where this program is coming from, the state of Colorado has this goal to reach a 45% diversion rate, diverting those materials that are going to landfills. And part of the reason NextCycle Colorado program was started was because the state saw this gap in recycling and organics infrastructure, especially around end markets. So end markets are those entities or businesses that are taking that recycled feedstock, those organic materials, and turning them into a new and valuable product. Colorado is challenged around end markets. We have some geography considerations. We're away from the coast, away from ports. We have some of those mountains in there to consider. We have a range of population density differences throughout the state. So all of these things can challenge the consolidation and transportation of materials. But that provides a pretty strong incentive for developing and growing further these localized within the state and market solutions. So that's what the NextCycle Colorado program is looking to do. Very simply, we're looking to accelerate, support, help grow localized and market solutions. We want to help those solutions grow within Colorado. To give an overview, the NextCycle Colorado program, it is a business accelerator program. Like Kendra said, it is focused on end markets, businesses and entities. And simply, an accelerator program is a short-term program designed to help businesses get technical support, connect with partners, develop their business plan, and essentially get ready for investment. So our goal is to mentor businesses and other entities that are working on some sort of end market project. And we want to help them move forward a couple milestones. So we want to help them get to a point where they can receive funding, whether that is through grant dollars, like Kendra was mentioning with the state grant programs, or through private investment. Unlike a grant program, the NextCycle program is it's an assistance program, so there's no upfront funding involved, but there are funding connections and opportunities. So really the idea is that you come in with a business, an entity, an end market project. There's going to be a short application, which I will talk about in a little bit, but that application is going to be reviewed by an advisory panel. We have a really awesome technical advisory panel that has a range of expertise. So you're going to apply, and then once you're accepted into the program, there's an onboarding call. There's this boot camp event, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then you receive this consulting technical support one-on-one with our team. And the program overall culminates with this public pitch competition. This is the final kind of showcase of your project and the closing of the accelerator program. So in terms of participant benefits, you know, what you get out of this program, if you want to jump to the next slide. The first benefit is networking and connection. So our goal is really to help you make good connections and partnerships. This could be a supply chain partner, it could be a partner, it could be an advisor, a customer, an investor. We really want to help you build that network that is going to be so critical to your project's success. The next big benefit of the program is pretty cool. So we have this consulting help that we provide every team, and it's flexible. So our team at RS is made up of economists, MRF operators, engineers, graphic designer, a range of subject matter experts. So we really want to tailor the consulting support to what your business, what your team needs. And then this bootcamp event, so this is an in-person event. We bring all of the NextCycle teams that have been chosen to this event. It's typically in person, and we have a lot of great workshops with our advisors and our subject matter experts. There's a whole range of topics on how to pitch, on how to get funding, on transportation, a whole range of really great topics. Teams consistently say this is a program highlight and that they get a lot out of it. So next, I mentioned that there's this advisory panel. So this technical advisory committee, the TAC, they are our really awesome rockstar team that comes from a wide range of industry backgrounds, and they have a wealth of knowledge and connections. They will be there at the bootcamp event, but they also provide mentorship to our teams throughout the program. Funding opportunities. So like I said, part of our goal in the program is to get your business, get your project ready for funding. So there's not direct funding, but like Kimberly mentioned, there is a small, in the last cohort, there's a small cash prize for the winner of the pitch competition, as well as opportunities to meet a couple investment groups. And then finally, we want to promote and recognize all of our great NextCycle Colorado teams. So we want to promote you through social media and press releases and the like. In terms of the other benefits, if you go to the next slide, the Technical Advisory Committee, like I said, so this is our panel of experts that help make the decision on which teams to select for the NextCycle program. So a wide range of entities represented on that panel. And there's also, like I said, there's some funding opportunities. So an advantage of getting into the NextCycle Colorado program is that you have this access to this closed loop partners funding. So they're a circular economy investment group that has pledged support for NextCycle projects. And finally, one last benefit is while NextCycle started in Colorado, it has since spread to a couple other states. So it's also in Michigan and Washington. And this is really a benefit for our participants because it means if you're looking to expand beyond the state, we have a lot larger network of partners that can help move those projects and businesses forward. So I went through that pretty quickly. Please continue to ask questions in the Q&A box there. I'm sure there's things that I've missed or sped through. So I want to talk a little bit about this application that's going to open tomorrow and a little bit about the criteria and hopefully answer some questions. So in terms of eligibility for the NextCycle Colorado program, we've been talking about end markets. So the project very simply has to be end market related. So it's growing or expanding an end market. So this could be some sort of remanufacturing process where you're taking that recycled content, turning it into a new product. It could also be secondary processing. So an example of this could be taking a plastic and turning it into a pellet that then can be used in an end market product. Composting is also eligible. We are looking at the end markets, so we want you to consider what you're going to do with that finished compost material, as well as the composting process. And then reuse projects are also eligible. In the past 3 cohorts of the program, we've had a wide range of materials accepted. So we've had projects that have focused on solar panels, on textiles, glass, plastics, food waste. I'm sure there's others, but quite a wide range. And then to be eligible, very simply, the project has to be located in Colorado as well. So a team can be from out of state, but the project has to be focused in Colorado. In terms of ineligible projects, so things like if you're looking to buy carts for recycling, it's not the right program. Education engagement programs, that's not what we're looking for. Waste to energy projects, things like that. In terms of the business stage, so this sort of bottom note here is that any business stage is eligible, but we have kind of a preference for things that are beyond the idea stage. So it's really great if you're enthusiastic and you say, I have this great idea to turn yoga mats into birdhouses. That's awesome, but we want to see something beyond just, I have an idea. So we want to see something that's a proof of concept, a first customer, early stage testing, some market validation, something that says this is beyond, I've put a little bit more time into this. It could also be a mature company that is looking to move or expand into Colorado and says, I want to learn more about opportunities here. I want to grow here. So quite a wide range. The only kind of eligibilities are this end markets and that it's in Colorado. And then if you go to the next slide, in terms of the application, it's fairly straight ahead. This is kind of an example of a past application here on the left, but you'll go to the website and download this PDF, and the application itself should be pretty straight ahead, about 2 to 4 pages long, submitted by email. In terms of how it's going to be evaluated, so it's going to be evaluated by the Technical Advisory Committee, and these criteria and questions are in the application too, but just to kind of go over them here. The first one is value proposition. That is pretty simply the why. Why is this a good project? Why is this needed in the state? This is really your place to make the case for why this project is important. The market impact is, what are you diverting? Does it have any economic impact, job creation, anything beyond just the project? Does the end product that you're making with this recycled content, does that have some sort of market value? So it's great if you're using recycled content, but if you're making, say, floppy disks or CDs, I don't know, maybe that's not a valuable product. Financial viability, we get questions on this one. So you don't need to be revenue positive at this point. But you need to show us that you've thought about financial sustainability. So even if you're really early stage and your business model is going to pivot, show us that you've thought about who your customer is, how you're going to make money, that it's going to be sustainable at some point in the future. And then the project team is pretty important, especially if you're an early stage venture. So you might not have a customer, you might not have any traction, but does your team have the right background and experiences to move the project forward? So like I said, those are also in the application itself, but just to touch on those a little bit more. In terms of what we're calling kind of the intangibles of what makes a successful NextCycle team, this is not eligibility. We're not going to rank this on any criteria, but some things that we've noticed over the last couple years of doing this program. Come ready to listen. If you're a founder or small business, small entity, you've probably gotten a lot of advice over your time, and it may not all be good, but we found that at least if you're open to hearing it, you're going to have a way better experience through the accelerator program. Program fit, just in terms of if the end market remanufacturing part is just a tiny portion of your business, maybe it's not a great program for you. Commitment and drive. This is your business. We can't run it for you. We want to assist you with it. Ultimately, kind of the more time and energy you put in, the more you show up to the program, the more you're going to get out. And then being flexible, pivot early, pivot often, come ready to listen. So those are just kind of some things that we've seen in terms of how to apply. And I'll show the screen at we'll reiterate this towards the end. So tomorrow at this website URL, nextcyclecolorado.com, you're going to go, there's going to be an apply button or a download, and you're going to be able to download the PDF application. This third bullet, I really want to highlight. So it says schedule office hours. This is totally optional, but I highly recommend it. So we get a lot of questions that say, is this project eligible? How would this work? Could I get help with this type of thing? The office hours are really great because that gives you a chance to schedule a one-on-one call with one of our NextCycle Colorado staff people, and they get to sit down with you or virtually sit down with you and talk through your project specifically and how NextCycle Colorado could help that project. So highly recommend the office hours. The link will be starting tomorrow. The link for office hours will be accessible on this website as well. And then you should have plenty of time if you're on this webinar. The applications are due December 1st, submitted by email. So like Kimberly and others have mentioned, we've gone through three cohorts. We're on cohort number 4. So I just wanted to go through a couple of the past teams and kind of highlight the range of projects and the range of businesses that have come through the program. So Vartega is or was a startup when they came through the program. They are focused on this new technology, this novel way to recycle carbon fiber in composites. They now have 50 employees. They've recently received $5 million in investor funding. They've received a CDPHE grant, and they have a new 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Golden. So kind of came in, they're that kind of classic startup with a novel technology. And then Table to Farm, so they came in pretty early stage. They came in with some local partnerships. They had hauler and community folks, but they were really looking at composting, and they were looking at the end markets of composting. So they were really focused on how can we manufacture a good compost product, not just be a processor. They did some awesome soil testing and things like that. So they actually recently received a Class 3 permit from the state, which is a big deal because that means they can process and divert food waste. They can compost it. And they're the first of this Class 3 composting facility in that southwest region of the state. And then Foam Cycle, so they're actually an out-of-state team. They're an existing business. They're an example of the secondary processor. So they are taking the foam and they have a densifying piece of equipment that helps make it recoverable and be added to other products. And through the NextCycle Colorado program, they found a nonprofit partner in the Front Range, and they worked together to get a grant to set up one of these foam densifying pieces of equipment. And then Trash Panda, so this team started in a garage. It has grown with many partnerships over NextCycle, and since they actually worked with a previous NextCycle team as well, Direct Polymers, and they are now working on manufacturing the first ever disc golf disc made out of 100% recycled content. So that's pretty cool. So that's kind of a range of teams, where they're coming from, kind of a range of materials as well. So now I want to show one of the pitches. So from cohort 3, so this is at that final pitch competition, that public event, Delta Brick and Climate Company, they were the winners of this pitch competition. And we'll show the pitch 5 minutes long, and then I'll introduce Nina, part of this team, to talk more about her company and the NextCycle experience.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm Chris Caskey. This is Delta Brick and Climate Company, as well as our tile brand, Particular Tile. And we are sustainable manufacturers who do climate action. Raise your hand if you love our local food scene here in Colorado. Keep it up if you want farmers to still have water. Keep it up if you're dimly concerned about climate change or very. Okay. And we know that when we transition off fossil fuels, you can put your hands down. We're going to need a just transition for fossil fuel workers. And of course, a lot of people are moving to our state, so we're going to need sustainable construction. So I think we could tie all these together in the next 4.5 minutes. But what we do is make beautiful, customizable building materials that benefit the climate, benefit water resources, and create good rural jobs. So ceramics simply are just clay plus heat. You take some earth, you expose it to fire, you get a tile. Basically, it's pretty much that easy. So I come from Paonia, which is a farm town, and Paonia Reservoir irrigates a lot of the acreage there. And Paonia Reservoir is severely impacted by sedimentation, which means mud comes down, fills it up, not as much water for farms as we want. And we are taking that mud. It happens to be high quality clay, so that's a rebrand. High quality clay, we get our cost reimbursed by the local irrigation folks, and that's our starting material. Also nearby, we have methane leaks. So that's natural gas-rich geology that's near the surface and is leaking. What you're looking at is Paonia Reservoir, where methane has bubbled up and disturbed the ice. If you capture this, you can monetize that via greenhouse gas offsets, and that's a high-quality energy source for us. We're specifically focused on coal mines. Because coal mines and abandoned coal mines are very concentrated sources of this methane. It's also an opportunity to do environmental remediation and to create jobs in the very places where fossil fuel jobs are going away. That's methane leaking out of a hillside. I mean, you're seeing water vapor, but it's methane. So that makes our business model get material for free, get paid to use our energy, and get paid for the materials that we sell. Advance. All right. Now, the market for greenhouse gas management is very large, and it needs to get larger. If we are going to solve climate change, it needs to be about 30 billion tons of CO2 equivalent per year globally. And we do have existing markets that are in the tens of millions of tons. For example, California and the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is in the Northeast states. And those dollar numbers are $13 to $18 per ton. Our value proposition specifically for building materials is that we're making beautiful, durable materials. They are customizable, they are cost competitive, and because we're vertically integrated, we have some resilience built into our supply chain. For methane management, the value proposition is that this is very impactful for the climate right away. It is, what did I write? It improves the air quality, which is true. It is a source of baseload renewable electricity, so if you're from Excel, and again, we're making jobs. A little bit of eye candy for products, some of them sexy, some of them not so sexy. Advance. And we have actually been making money. So our costs lately have been in the $27,000 to $31,000 a month, and this last quarter we've been cash flow positive. And the light blue is recurring monthly revenue that we get for operating a couple of different methane capture projects. And the dark blue is our revenue from selling building materials. So currently these two activities are separate. We have methane capture, we have building materials manufacturing. Those are different. In the future, they'll be merged. We have a great team, including Mona, who has experience in energy, Nina, who's here with manufacturing experience, myself, I'm a chemist. And I have to show you one chemistry thing, which is methane is CH4. When you destroy it, you react it with oxygen. You make CO2 and also H2O. That's why you see steam coming out of a car tailpipe on a cold day. We are cooling down that steam to make a new source of liquid water, and we're making about 200 gallons a day, but we're capturing enough methane that we could be making about 6,000 gallons a day, and that actually starts to add up to acre feet per year, which would be fantastic. So to conclude, we're doing both climate mitigation and adaptation. We're selling building materials. It's pretty fun, and we've been growing revenue. So I'll take some questions.
All right, so I'd like to welcome Nina from Delta Brick and Climate Company on to talk more about her company, what they're doing, and how they on the NextCycle Colorado process. Thanks, Nina.
Yeah, hi, thank you guys for having me. This was an amazing experience for us. We had the opportunity to be a part of this last cohort. It was so inspirational. There were so many different companies that did so many amazing things. So just being in that environment and just seeing what others are doing and trying to do good for the world was a great place to be, just because the business world is tough. And so to be around others that care the same way you care is really like just a moment of great inspiration and a moment to really see that others are trying as hard as you are to really do something amazing for Colorado and really the world. So we found this to be a great opportunity. We got connected with grant writers, which was super helpful for us. We are finalists in the next grant. Oh, I'm so sorry, I forget the name of the grant. But that was super helpful. They really helped us put together a clear, concise pitch on what we want to talk to investors about. And we were really able to, we met with all the investors that NextCycle helped us get in contact with. And we are still in contact with a couple of investor groups and potentially moving forward with those, because right now our business is still in two parts. We have the brick making and tile making, and then we have facilities where we're capturing methane, but we don't yet heat our bricks with methane. So that's our next big step. And that's what we've been writing grants for and getting funding for, to help get our facility moved to a spot, an abandoned coal mine. So we're able to use the leaking methane to heat our bricks and tiles. And fingers crossed, we have put a bid in on a property and hopefully we'll be under contract soon. I see here in the open questions that someone was asking about state grant opportunities. I know that NextCycle for our cohort brought in a couple of people who are on the boards of different grants, and they talked to us about what grant writers are really looking at and for. And that was incredibly helpful as we moved forward and completed our grant. I also see that someone talked about reusable packaging, and there was actually a group in our cohort that is working on that for the Front Range. They are in Boulder and in Denver, working with restaurants to create a reusable container system, and they were a great company, and I think they'll go far with that. Yeah, but I would highly recommend this program. It's well worth the time and energy. Everyone involved was incredibly helpful. Megan and Yuri are still a source for us, even after it's closed. We're still in contact and still getting resources and getting information from them. They've been incredibly helpful in this process, and we haven't quite taken full advantage of everything yet, but we used our NextCycle funds to help us create a employee-owned company. So that's what we used our winnings for, or are in the process of doing. And we've definitely gotten some really good connections to be able to move our business to the next level. I think that that's all I have, unless there are questions. Oh, Lindsay, you did ask a question about the CO2 generated. You are correct. When you burn CH4, you create water and CO2. Unfortunately, right now, that does just get released into the atmosphere. But there are definitely further plans down the road to also capture the CO2. Chris actually had a previous company capturing CO2. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful, but that is definitely something we have experience with and will try to continue to do in the future. And yes, I can absolutely find the information for the grant writers. They were wonderful. They helped us greatly. I will pass that information on. I don't have it on hand, but they were wonderful. Yes, Lindsay, thank you. Yes, it's a step in the right direction. We're trying our hardest. We have a starting point, and we're going to go from there.
Great. Well, I think that we can open it up to the other questions that we have here. And Kendra, feel free to answer some of these as well. So the first question was about receiving proposals to grow container and packaging reuse programs. So like Nina said, we did have reuse is eligible, and we did have a team in the last cohort that was focused on reusable takeout containers. So definitely an eligible type of project. Kendra, do you want to answer this next one? It says, how does NextCycle tie companies back into state grant opportunities?
So I think there's a couple of different ways that happens. If you are a Colorado business and you have a project that's compatible with the Recycling Resource Economic Opportunity Program, that would be the statewide program, and one that actually Delta Brick received, and or the Forward the Front Range Waste Diversion Program, meaning you have to be in one of those 13 Front Range counties. You would be able to apply and you'd receive bonus points for having completed the NextCycle program. So when we see a NextCycle graduate application, we know that those teams or those individuals have been through a somewhat rigorous process of preparation and business model planning and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so we offer some incentive for those teams to apply. Does that answer it, Megan?
I think that's a great answer. Yeah, just to build off of that, we see the NextCycle program as hopefully preparing you for that investment. That's one of our goals, is to help you answer some of those technical or those business questions so that when a grant opportunity is open, you know what your ask is, you have done your research, you've done your homework, and essentially you're set up in a good position to be able to not only receive that grant, but to be able to execute on it too, to fill the grant contract. So we see it as, you know, you can obviously go straight to grants, but we see it as a good process to help you build up and fill in some of those gaps before you apply for a grant. I see a question here, Nina, maybe you can answer this one. It says, did you have patents prior to starting the program? Were you concerned about IP at all?
Yeah, so for our particular process and for what we do, brick making and tile making is as old as time, and so we don't have any patents to worry about in that regard. But I do know that there were quite a few companies that were in the cohort that had IPs, and it never became an issue in the crowd or in the group. Every business was doing their own individual thing, and in such a way that you don't need to give up trying here. I got this word. Proprietary information you don't need to disclose, and you'll still get the full benefit of the program. There was definitely the recycle or the reuse guys, they had some proprietary software things that they were doing to track all their containers. And that was just part of their, like, they didn't have to discuss what that was. It was just understood that they know what they're doing in that regard. And then there's another couple of guys that were in a very beginning stage of what their company was. They were kind of even still unsure of the name, but they have done some testing, and they again are working with different types of plastics. And so I think that you do not need to be concerned in any type of way. It's none of that is revealed in a way that would could potentially hurt or harm a group.
Yeah, that's thanks for your perspective on that, Nina. I will say that it is a state funded program through the RREO, but we keep kind of a firewall as RRS managing it, so that if there is information that you want to share directly with us that's going to help some of the technical support, for example, we can hold on to that and keep that, and keep it separate from anything that is more public facing.
Yeah, that was my experience, definitely.
Did you want to share anything about that, Kendra? Or does that pretty much cover it?
I think that covers it. For sort of the same purpose, when you present a grant application to one of our programs, if there is proprietary information, we ask that you call that out in your grant application, and that you do not include it in your application narrative, because the application narrative is a publicly shared part of the grant application most typically, but we can use your direction to make sure we're not divulging proprietary information on projects.
Awesome. I see the next question here is, do projects need to be shovel ready? We're an early stage company and have an IP and a process, but not a facility. Do you want to?
So Megan, I don't know if that's for me, but so I think there's two different answers here, and I'll let Megan address the NextCycle side of it. For the RREO or the forward grant programs, projects do need to be shovel ready.
Yeah, so for grants, they do need to be shovel ready. For NextCycle, we're great with early stage. So that's where we really want people to come into the process, because it is an assistance program rather than, upfront funding. So yeah, early stage is great. Anything that's kind of past the just I have a great idea phase, if you have some of those partnerships in place, that's great. If you have the IP, the process, if you've done some testing, you have an early customer, any of those kind of indicators are what we're looking for. So, not having a facility is a great place to jump into NextCycle, because, that could be one of the goals you work on through NextCycle is what needs to happen with that process, what's the other testing, what else needs to be secured to get to that place where you can go out and seek a facility. So, whereas the grant, you might be, we're totally ready, we want the facility, now. NextCycle is a great place to get that help before that facility.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think you answered this already, Nina, but there's a question about, does NextCycle help write the grants or make connections with writers? Mm-hmm. And I know you shared about your connection to grant writers.
And yes, we met grant writers. So NextCycle had invited grant writers to the pitch proposal. And so that's how we were able to connect with some different folks. And that was super helpful for us. Like I said, Arula is the group that we used. And they did great work for us. NextCycle also, when you guys brought in, I forget who you guys brought in, but
I think the forward board members.
Yes, the forward board members. And they were also super helpful in explaining what grant writers are looking for. And that was incredibly helpful to kind of know which parts to be specific about and which parts to be general about. And so I think NextCycle really helped us in multiple ways with our grant writing.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Nina, because that is, I think, right on what we're hoping to help people with, is that we ourselves, RS, and the NextCycle Colorado team are not writing the grants directly, but we definitely, in the boot camp, like Nina was saying, we want to have those connections and those people in to talk about, in general, what grants are looking for, in the application, and then connecting you to those resources. So those are kind of the two things Nina touched, the two things that we're, how we're trying to help with that space. All right, and I see a question about, would NextCycle help a recycling facility build a new plant? Do you want to touch on that, Kendra, or I can take that one?
So, well, NextCycle is an accelerator program. So there is no funding for development outside of the work you do in the NextCycle program. What it might help you do is prepare to have a good, solid business model and a plan for what that facility project might look like, and might put you in a better situation to apply for a grant and receive some funding. There are limits to what grants can fund. We can't buy real estate with grant dollars, and there's some other restrictions, but there's a number of ways that the department grants can assist with your recycling projects.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, NextCycle could, it kind of depends, and I think this is a great place where having a one-on-one office hour, signing up for one of those office hours, you can get kind of into the details about where you're specifically at and what you're specifically looking for help with. But yeah, some of the things we could do, we could help, if it's not one of our staff people, we could help you find an expert that's knows the county code, or knows the water and air quality issues or regulations. We can help you, put you in touch with the right permitting folks, or a land use lawyer, or folks like that. So those are types of things that we can help you with. And if we don't have the right expert on our staff, we will endeavor to find and connect you with that person. So if we don't have the land use code dialed, we will try to find you that person and help you in that regard. But I think that would be also a good question for an office hour, to get a little bit deeper into that. Any other questions that you're seeing, Kimberly, pop up? Anything we haven't answered yet?
No, I think you all got them.
All right. Well, thank you, Nina and Kendra, for sharing and answering some of those questions. So the application is going to be open, like I said, it's going to open tomorrow at that NextCycleColorado.com website. You also, if you're registered, if you're on this webinar, you should also see an email that comes through with that link as well. You can also send us an email, nextcycle@recycle.com, to learn more. But highly recommend you checking out that application. And then if you have more questions, you want to have some of that one-on-one time, signing up for an office hour on the website, I think is the way to go. But appreciate everyone attending. Any final words for us, Kimberly?
The only thing is the recording of the webinar, you will see that within the next couple of days. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and go ahead and visit our website tomorrow to either start scheduling those office hours or get a head start on your application. And thank you everyone for joining.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.